Welcome back, everybody. Hello. Thank you very much. Thank you. Before I'm going to start the presentation, I just want to thank you on a personal note to attend our perspective because the team, and that was not only myself, there was an entire group of people from the technicians, from assistants, from the speakers, from BI colleagues. We have been working very diligently for probably roughly a year for this event to happen, and it makes me very happy seeing you interacting with the speakers and spending an entire day of your precious time with us and learn how to control and manage disease. So thank you very much for participating. The presentation that I will give you today is about a tool that we have been working on for probably roughly 2 years now, and it's a biosecurity assessment tool. And this tool will help you to speed up decision making in your barn, because when you deal with disease in the barn, two things you have very little. The one is time, and the other one is money. And regarding money, Lance has already told us a lot on how to make the best decision and money-wise the wisest decision. But in the next couple of slides, I want to share with you how you can use Combat to accelerate the decision process in order to improve the biosecurity on your farm. But why are we actually talking about biosecurity? So therefore, I have just pulled up the study from Haywick, and he investigated the effect of PRRS challenge doses in vaccinated pigs. And I think there is just one slide that I will show you that summarizes basically in a nutshell why biosecurity and vaccination is a very powerful combination. So what he did in his study, he had a couple of pigs, so 5 group of pigs, and they were either vaccinated or they were non-vaccinated. But what those pigs had in common is that they were challenged with different amount of PRRS virus. So there was an unvaccinated group, but one was challenged with 10 to the power of 1, 10 to the power of 2, 3, and then eventually with a pretty high virus load. And what he has found out, so he has analyzed different parameters, but just to make a point here, I've selected the ADG, average daily weight gain, and what you can see here on this chart is the x-axis shows the challenge dose, the increased amount of challenge virus in those pigs, and the y-axis shows the ADG. So here low ADG, here high ADG. And if we now firstly take a look at the non-vaccinated pigs challenged with PRRS virus, we see that already small amounts of PRRS virus have already a huge negative impact on the ADG. So even small amount of PRRS has a huge impact on a production parameter in those pigs. But when pigs have been vaccinated, and this is now the orange dots, you can see that vaccination was very efficient in actually totally mitigating the negative effects of PRRS virus in low challenge scenarios. So those pigs were unchallenged, and those pigs were challenged only with 10 to the power of 1. So when small amount or when a less amount of virus is around, those tools, the vaccines that we have, they are incredibly effective. But they are not effective or are not as effective when the amount of virus reaches higher levels. And here, everything what we do in order to improve disease control in the farm is taking place here. So biosecurity and management practices really help us to reduce the virus load, and then with the combination of vaccines and biosecurity, this is a super effective tool to even mitigate any negative effect of the disease. So we know that people are really interested in biosecurity and they want to implement biosecurity protocols, but as everybody is super busy, they don't want to dig through a pile of papers or want to do on a daily basis do evaluation that takes them 4 or 5 hours. And keeping that in mind, we have created a tool called Combat that gives you a very fast-forward biosecurity assessment. So it is a free web-based application that will help you to check and improve your PRRS-related biosecurity by highlighting practices and procedures that can be reinforced. And on your desk, you find a flyer that highlights the 4 basic features of this tool. The first one is it allows you specific assessment. So whether you are, for example, a farrow-to-wean farm or a nursery farm or a finishing farm, you will see only the set of questions that is relevant for your farm. So it's a pretty straightforward biosecurity assessment. The second feature, and this is, we have been collaborating with 2 data journalists, and they said, Marius, nobody wants to go through the entire assessment and then only see in the end the report. When people are using the tool, they want to have a stepwise feedback system. So after completing each of those sections, we want that the audience already has an idea on how this biosecurity assessment was ranked in those specific sections. So what you can see is here is the general information, and after going through the tool, you will immediately get stepwise feedback system. We also added another feature that I think is super powerful, because we didn't only evaluate biosecurity with Combat, we added a biosecurity guidance to it. So you will see actual recommendations in order to improve your biosecurity based on the questionnaire that you have performed. And the fourth feature, I think it's also pretty valuable, is that you are able to compare your farm with other systems. So repeat the biosecurity assessment over time, and then you can filter for the average data of other farms matching your similar production systems in your country in order to compare how your biosecurity is performing to your peers. And with these features, keeping these features in mind, let's take a look at Clayton's farm and perform a stress test. So the first thing that Clayton did was log into Combat, because you do have the possibility to proceed as guest, but then the reports are not safe and saved. So biosecurity assessment only brings a real value if you can repeat it all over again every 3 months, every 6 months, and then see whether your biosecurity level is increasing. So I encouraged you to log in, and then you do have the possibility to either proceed with a full report. And the full report, it roughly takes you, so depending on the production system, it roughly takes you through the system within 15 to 20 minutes. Or if you are if you want to do only a fast-track report, then you see a couple of the most valuable questions, and this will only take you 5 minutes. But in order to use the full value and the full potential of the tool, I think 15 to 20 minutes is absolutely acceptable for a biosecurity assessment. And here you see the different sections that we have evaluated our farm upon. So you start with the general biosecurity information, and here everything is asked of, so farm location, pig density, density to slaughterhouse, so all the parameters that you cannot really influence, but it's still very important to know about. In the next section, so once we have completed the general biosecurity information, and we have seen that apparently our farm is located in a quite good area, we need to proceed with the external biosecurity. And this is quite important also because the general biosecurity information helps us to set the scene. If you have already very challenging circumstances, depending on the farm location, it is even more important to, for example, get high rankings in the external biosecurity to reduce the risk of introduction of pathogens into your farm. And luckily, we see that the farm location, that our production system has chosen a good spot to locate the farm here, so not many other farms around, slaughter plants not close by. So when we proceed now with the external biosecurity assessment, here we're going to ask everything related to pig introduction, to transportation, to manure disposal, so everything that will prevent pathogen introduction from outside. And as you can see here, this is just an example question on how this looks like. So now I've pulled up the question, do visitors have to shower to enter the farm? And you can see here it's very easy to rate yes or no. Radio buttons, and here on the top you see the process chart. So now we are in the section of external biosecurity, and then you're going to select the correct answer depending on the production system that you're representing, and you will be easily guided through the tool. After doing that, you get a stepwise feedback system that I have already mentioned, and here you can see that our external biosecurity risks, unfortunately, are quite high. And to better understand why they have been ranked high, if you scroll below, you see all the questions, or basically all the answers that have been related to high risk, to the high risk biosecurity assessment in your external section. And if you do have any specific question why, for example, this answer has been included here in the survey, you can click on the information button, and then you see either a reference where this is based on or additional information to better understand this question. So now, after completing our external biosecurity assessment, we're going to proceed with the tool and the other options. You remember we start with general to set the scene of biosecurity. We have now assessed our external biosecurity, and then we proceed with transportation, with internal biosecurity, and we're going to end up eventually with all the questions that are related to management. And in the end, the tool will ask you whether the data that you have implemented represents a hypothetical farm, or if these data represent a genuine farm. And this is important because later on I will show you a chart how the tool compares your production system based on the biosecurity assessment with others. So if you only want to get used to the tool, just click that those are hypothetical data. If these data represent an actual farm, then you can click that these are true data. And we always do the biosecurity assessment right to see the results. And the results you can see here on the screen, and something that I really like, because we did we logged into the tool, and therefore you can personalize the report as well. So when you're doing this for your clients, for example, you can upload your company logo, and whether you're a vet practice or your production system, you can personalize your report. And you get here the overall biosecurity risk assessment. And here, currently, our risk, so you see this very easy to understand 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 grid box. And currently, we are here where the very mild current arrow is located. So for the updated version, we made this a little more prominent. But our biosecurity risk was assessed as here 4 out of 5 risk boxes, so quite high. And below, the tool suggests you automatically which actions are required in order to improve your biosecurity status, because we know that those actions are assigned to different risks. And when we step for one slide away from combat, you see this chart from a Belgian epidemiologist, Professor Jérôme de Wolf. And I have attended a couple of his presentations. I think it's very interesting what he has to share in terms of biosecurity. And here, for example, he has just ranked different biosecurity risks that are taking place day by day in our farm. And as you can see here, everything that is related to live animals, so direct disease transmission, carries a very high risk of biosecurity, whereas everything that is more related to indirect disease transmission, such as contaminated feed or pets and rodents, carries a less heavier risk. And we took this into consideration when working with combat, so each risk each action is assigned to a specific risk. And the tool automatically shows you, so it ranks the actions taking place in your farm that are assigned to higher risk. But for sure, the tool can only give you recommendation. There is only one person that knows your farm, and this is you. So it is important for you to have the possibility to modify those biosecurity suggestions. And this is what you can see here. This is the current risk profile in similar farms. And when I'm going to play the video, you see below all the actions that are required, so the 5 most beneficial actions in order to reduce your biosecurity risk. And if you feel that some of these actions don't match your farm and it would be too hard to implement them, you can very easily delete them and filter for other options that you would like to implement, or scroll further down and get a list of actions that can be relatively easy implemented in your farm. And if you also want to try out what impact any biosecurity actions that you're thinking about implementing has, you can also filter that and see how this bar then moves. So here in our farm, we say that we should assess whether vaccination is the right protocol. We should avoid bringing in animals from PRRS-positive origin. We should need to extend the quarantine and acclimation process to 12 weeks, and we reduce the frequency of gilt introduction if possible. And if we will implement those 5 biosecurity actions, then we see that we would reduce our general biosecurity risk. And finally, if you're going to repeat the biosecurity assessment, if you sit together with your customers and do this from time to time, you will see here our farm, that's the blue one, after the farmer was able to implement those biosecurity suggestions, you will see that the biosecurity risk will decrease, and then you can easily compare with average data from other production systems in your country, for example, or in other countries if you would like to. And when you also just want to take a closer look at a specific timeline, you can just select the date and filter for that specific date. So with that, you find a couple of information how to include combat on your cell phone, because as I previously told, it's a web-based application, but that means that it still has all the functionalities of an application, and it's relatively easy to scan the QR code and then follow those instructions to add combat as an icon to your cell phone, and then it has the look and feel of an application. And while preparing this presentation, I included this world map just to remind myself, and I think it's also turning, yes, just to remind myself that our teams in the countries did a fantastic job in translating the tool. So we have it in a couple of European languages that you might not be so interested in, but I've put it here in the speaker notes. We have it also now in simplified and traditional Chinese. We have it in Korean, in Vietnam, and by the end of the year also in Thai. So the tool is available for you, and make best use out of it. Thank you very much. So with that, I would like to hand over to Clayton, because we have talked already about the first steps of control, but in order to improve our biosecurity and reduce the problems that you have shared with us in the very beginning, it may be important to modify the guild plan. And with that, Clayton, I'm very interested in your thoughts.